Hey, y'all. Thanks for stopping by. So, yesterday was the first Tuesday of November, which means it's election day in the United States. And it was an off year. It was an odd number year at that, so it's not even a representative race that was happening. It was mostly just local ballots, mayors, governors, town council stuff. If you had something to vote on in your area, I hope you participated. I'm always confused as to why Election Day isn't a federal holiday. People tell me it's, to suppress the vote. And that's the only reason it makes sense to me, because why wouldn't you want everybody who's able to participate in the system to participate unless you're afraid of what they have to say? Now, I'm from South Carolina, so in my district, there wasn't anything specific to vote on, but there were some closely watched races around the country, namely the mayoral race in New York City. There were two governor's races, one in Virginia and one in New Jersey. All of these went to the Democratic candidate on the ballot, and by fairly steep margins at that. The governor's races were by double digits for both of them. Mamdani's race, at least with the younger voter, he's pulling Assad-like margins. And then, of course, the California race, their Prop 50 vote that had to come up about redistricting. A retaliatory measure by California Governor Gavin Newsom in the wake of Texas and Greg Abbott doing redistricting at the request of President Donald Trump, his request for 5 more votes in Texas. So if you were confused about that one, if someone's telling you that this is Democrats trying to steal the midterms, just understand that Texas did this first without a vote. That's just how their state constitution works. The governor can do redistricting at any time, and Californians let their people decide if they wanted to do redistricting. Now, all of this is to say, woke's back on the menu. Put the pronouns back in your email because we're going blue no matter who. It's the blue wave is coming, and I do gotta say, this is nice to see, especially if you saw some of the posting beforehand. As much as Republicans and those on the right, and even some of my more liberal counterparts, will complain about Hassan Piker's line about America deserving 9/11, you have elected officials claiming that New York will deserve 9/11 if they elect someone like Zohran Mamdani. You have Ted Cruz making a mock-up election page, apparently calling Mamdani a communist and a jihadist, which, not to rain on his parade, but Zohran Mamdani did win the Democratic primary. So technically, the jihadist that you're talking about is either Cuomo or Sliwa. And I don't think that's the way you meant for that joke to land. I point these two out specifically because these are elected officials. These aren't just random one-off accounts or nameless, faceless people. These are your elected officials. They're getting paid with our tax dollars. But if you want, we can look at podcasters and see what they had to say. Fellow beardy, baldy, beanie boy, Tim Pool, decided to say that New York has been conquered. He's not alone in that sentiment either. Lots of these right-wing accounts, a lot of these dudes who like to cry for civil war are saying that voting people in through the democratic process, through electoral politics, is actually you being conquered. That because you participated in electoral politics and voted for someone he didn't like, that means you're a traitor. That means you've done treason. That means it's violence against them. You're going to see some really limp-wristed Sephiroth posting throughout your day if you scroll on Twitter long enough. The type of stuff we've all grown used to at this point, you don't know what's coming. You don't know what beast you've awakened. Like, okay, just keep posting through it. You'll be fine. All that said, though, these election results are very good news for a lot of people, a weight off a lot of people's shoulders. There's been a lot of, I'll just say it, fear in people's hearts about the state of the world we're in, the current administration, their plans and machinations. So to see such overwhelming support from a voting public against these people, their ideas, their machinations, it's a load off. I'll say that for sure. And sure, none of these elections are affecting me directly in South Carolina. I do kind of feel like I'm cheering on team sports at this point when I woke up and saw the news rolling in. But this energy should carry over, or I certainly hope it does. It's not just about replacing Republicans with Democrats, even though I'm sure we can all see at this point that Democrats in chairs seem to work out better for the American public. The results in New York City electing someone like Zohran Mamdani does lend itself to the idea that people are more open to less capitalistic ideas. When you've got the most prominent city in America electing someone who openly calls himself a democratic socialist, I think that's a sign that, well, things are leaning a little to the left. Not to mention electing him in the face of this old guard Democrat, the ex-governor Andrew Cuomo. I think he represents for a lot of people this sort of establishment Democratic Party, the older money, Clinton Foundation Democratic Party. So for him to be defeated so resoundingly in this largest city in America is a really good sign, I would say. It makes me feel good to see that news, even though I'm not living in that city. Not to mention the speech that he gave when he was addressing the people after election results were called.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us.
Just perfect. We all need a mayor like this in our city, someone who's going to stand up for everyone. All I can say right now is to get involved. Election day is only one day out of the year, but it's kind of like Christmas, it's everything builds up to that. So maybe figure out what's going on in your local scene, maybe get involved with a couple of organizations. But as for today, just get a bucket of popcorn, scroll your timeline, and just laugh at all the flailing that the online right is doing right now. And I guess when they finally come to terms that young people aren't exactly the foot soldiers for Trump they were expecting, y'all try to have a good day.